Now, this is a story all about how 3 girls took a class and were taught so much about biomechanics they learned a bunch. So here's a final part about volleyball and how we became the queen of biomechanics overall.
In Eastern North Carolina, born and raised, Biomechanics lab is where he spends most of his days analyzing, virtualizing, and working all cool. And hanging with his family outside of school when a couple of girls who were only up to good took Patrick Ryer's 8 a.m. class because he better understood biomechanics and how it's incorporated in life. They even got to learn a little about his wife.
They begged and pleaded with him day after day to show them some love and give them an A. He rolled his eyes and told them not to stress because to him they were mentally blessed.
First class in the morning, yo, this ain't bad.
Drinking coffee and tea out of a Starbucks cup.
Is this what people with biomechanics living like?
This might be alright, so let's get this going before the end of the night. The purpose of a forearm pass is to direct the ball towards the target, the setter. Typically, when the opposing team serves the ball over the net, the first contact is a forearm pass, then a set, and then the last contact is a spike or a hit. Passing is a very important skill since the following volleyball movements rely on it. A bad pass can result in a bad set, which can result in an okay hit or with the ball in the net. To begin, you must start in the ready position before the ball is served. The legs should be eccentrically contracted and form approximately 110 degrees. In this phase, there is a decrease in both potential and kinetic energy, as there is a decrease in height and velocity. Therefore, there is a decrease in energy. The ready position pre-activates the muscles to a moderate level by forming a few cross bridges. By co-activating the muscles within the legs, there is a decrease in the response time to react to the ball, and therefore increases quickness. This allows you to quickly move side to side and front to back to meet the ball. According to a study comparing reaction movement times in 4 variations of an upright stance by Cotton and Denning, the optimal reaction movement times were when the participants were in the knee bent stance and in the flat foot stance. In the knee bent stance, the individual's legs will be flexed rather than extended. In the flat foot stance, the individual's foot should be in the neutral position instead of the foot being in plantar flexion. It was observed that the participants who began in plantar flexion rocked backwards onto their heels before moving. Therefore, it is optimal to keep both feet in contact with the ground in the ready position. The feet should be slightly wider than shoulder width apart. The individual center of mass is above the base of support. Therefore, the wider the base of support, the more balanced the individual will be. You want to be balanced prior to the ball being served, so when you move to meet the ball, you won't fall over or injure yourself. The pre-contact phase in passing occurs moments before the ball contacts the forearms. The knees should be flexed, forming a 90-degree angle. The arms are extended out in front of the trunk and should come together to form a flat contact space from the wrist to the elbow. A flat contact space is critical for control and accuracy. If one arm is slightly anterior than the other, the ball will contact the forearms unevenly and fly off in an undesired direction. The contact phase in passing occurs when the ball actually contacts the forearms. In this phase, there is a gain in both potential energy and kinetic energy as your height and velocity increase. Therefore, there is an increase in energy. Power is the rate at which work is being done. Therefore, there is a high power produced because you are producing moderate force at a moderate speed. The ball should contact both forearms slightly above the wrist, and the arms should slightly swing up and forwards when contacting the ball. Swinging the arms will result in a less controlled pass and a decrease in accuracy. The individual's muscles generate the force to move the skeleton to move the ball. The external force acting upon the ball is the individual skeleton. The individual exerts an upward and forward force on the ball, while gravity exerts a downward force. Therefore, you will need to swing slightly to exert a force on the ball to overcome the force of gravity. This will give the setter enough time to position herself under the ball. However, less arm swing is necessary when the ball is moving at a fast velocity. According to Newton's first law of motion, an object, the ball, will move with a constant velocity until an external force, the person, is applied to the object. Therefore, when the ball contacts and comes off of the individual's forearms, the velocity of the ball will decrease as it heads to the setter. The final phase in passing is the follow-through. The body will move forward in the direction of the target with the dominant foot leading. Newton's second law of motion is being applied to this principle because an object, the ball, will accelerate in the direction of the resultant force, the body being directed towards the target.
In volleyball, a team is only allowed up to 3 touches every time the ball is on their side. For the best offensive attack, the team should try and set the ball up using those 3 touches. This increases the accuracy of the attack and allows for the team to have more control of how they want to set up their play. These 3 touches usually consist of a pass to the setter, a set to the hitter, and lastly the spike. Each position on the court has a designated job, and it is important each player knows how to properly execute their movement. In this portion of the video, I will be discussing how a setter appropriately sets the ball and the biomechanics behind it. Setting can either be an offensive or defensive play. Defensively, if the served ball is too high to bump, typically above the player's shoulders, it may be set to the setter instead of passed. In this video, we will focus on the offensive scenario of setting. This is when it is passed to the setter in order for the attacker to hit the ball. The better the pass to the setter, the better the player can set the ball for the hitter, resulting in a better attack. In volleyball, it is especially important to always be in what is known as the ready position. As you can see in the far left model in the picture, this is when you have equal flexion in your knees and hips and are positioned lower to the ground as if you were squatting, keeping your torso parallel to your shins. Your feet should be planted flat on the ground, shoulder width apart, which will allow you to access full power from your legs. Power in your legs comes from the muscles being contracted concentrically or eccentrically. When your muscles are contracted concentrically, the muscle is being shortened while producing force. The muscle torque is larger than external torque, which causes movement. Concentric contractions are used when lifting and moving body segments. When your muscles are contracted eccentrically, the muscle lengthens while producing force. The external torque is larger than the muscle torque, which causes movement to stop body segments. These muscular forces combined with the body's displacement results in work done by the setter. Work occurs when energy changes, and power represents the rate at which work is done. Your arms should be up and flexed by your side, ready to receive the ball. This stance allows your center of mass, which is the location in the body where mass is evenly distributed, to remain near your hips and above the base of support, in this case, the ground, giving you the most balance. This position allows the setter to accurately determine their body's velocity and to be able to accelerate quickly to the ball. The actual performance of the set is a continuous fluid motion. Depending on the pass, the setter will position themselves underneath the ball. Once underneath the ball, it is important they position their bodies in the direction of the target they're passing it to. Their arms should be extended above the head with their hands 10 to 15 centimeters directly above their foreheads and elbows flexed to the side. The thumb and forefingers should form a triangular window. Knees should still be flexed, just not as much as before, and shoulder width apart. The ball is in projectile motion while in the air and is continuously displaced between players. Projectile motion is when an object moves in a free fall effect with an initial horizontal velocity and is thereafter influenced only by the forces of gravity and air resistance until it is affected by an external force. Displacement is a vector quantity and is defined as the distance or change in position between the start and the end of a motion. The velocity, which is the rate at which an object changes its position, of the ball is reduced upon contact with the setter and then is changed once it is projected. The angle of projection, the vertical direction of the ball with respect to the horizontal after the setter makes contact, does not directly relate to variability in the height of the set, according to a study done at the University of Arizona. Newton's 3 laws all play a role in this movement. When the ball is displaced, the ball will react equally and oppositely to the forces the player applies to it, referring to the 3rd law, and will travel at the same constant velocity until external forces are applied to the ball, which refers to the 1st law, and its mass of the ball remains unchanged, and the setter controls the force applied to the ball, which will accelerate it in the direction the force was applied at a rate inversely proportional to the mass of the ball, referring to the 2nd law.
The last movement during a volleyball play is known as the hit or spike. The spike is a strategy used to powerfully slam the ball over the net into the opposing court so the opponent is not able to return the ball. The hit is made up of 5 different phases: the preparation phase, the jump phase, arm swing, contact with the ball, and the follow-through. The main goal of the preparation phase is to gain maximal height and momentum before the jump phase. Momentum is equal to mass times velocity. So in this case, momentum is equal to the mass of the player times the velocity he or she is producing. In the beginning of the preparation phase, potential energy is high, and as the athlete continues to move through the phase, he or she continually builds up kinetic energy to prepare for the jump. It is important that the athlete does not stop moving because kinetic energy will be lost. Through this phase, the athlete's arms are flexing, extending, and hyperextending through the sagittal plane to help propel he or she forward and gain maximum momentum. The next phase we move into is known as the jump phase. The main purpose of the jump phase is to gain peak height and leg extension before the actual arm swing and contact with the ball is made. Newton's 3rd law of motion comes into play here. This law of motion states, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. As the athlete moves through the preparation phase, momentum and force is gained. As the athlete begins the jumping phase, this force and momentum is applied directly to the ground through the planted feet and legs. As the athlete begins to jump off the ground, the force is then applied back through the athlete, allowing he or she to propel forward and upward. As you jump, your hip joint is extended by the gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and hamstring muscles. The glutes also keep your pelvis stable during movement, preventing falls. The legs are initially bent at the beginning of the jump phase. As the legs straighten and extend at peak jump height, vertical momentum allows the athlete to reach optimal height to prepare for the arm swing. The knees make it possible to complete a jump during volleyball. 4 muscles collectively known as the quadriceps, the rectus femoris, vastus intermedius, vastus lateralis, and vastus medialis, support the knee action and allow you to straighten your legs. As you can see here, Natalie's legs are completely extended as she leaves the ground to gain maximum vertical momentum to produce the most powerful spike. The 3rd phase is known as the arm swing. The main goal of the arm swing is to increase angular velocity and torque at the elbow and shoulder joints to obtain powerful contact with the ball. The arm is initially hyperextended and moves through the sagittal plane to eventually make contact with the ball. The shoulder flexors help raise the arm, and the shoulder extensors help move the arm forward to actually hit the ball. Trunk and shoulder rotation are also key elements within the arm swing phase of a spike. According to a study done by Bittencourt, Nito, Franco, Natalia in 2007, trunk and shoulder movement during a volleyball spike is crucial to produce the most powerful and successful hit. This study focused on 2 elite volleyball players and their movement during a spike, specifically trunk and shoulder movement. Through their study, the biomechanists found that player A spiked the ball at a higher velocity of the right hand, but at a slightly lower height than player B. According to the biomechanists, both players had their own unique components to their spikes. Player A continuously rotated the trunk forward until the impact, while player B changed from forward to backward trunk rotation a little before it. This graph shows the different angles created by each player for both trunk rotation and shoulder abduction and adduction. GI represents player A, and IS represents player B. These results can be used to further study optimal trunk and shoulder movement during a volleyball spike. After the arm swing phase, contact with the ball is made. We know that at the end of the arm swing and right before contact is made, the arm is straight and completely abducted. In order to gain the most accuracy and power, contact with the ball should be made at the peak of the athlete's jump. All of the force that has been built up in the previous phases are now transferred into the ball to generate maximum speed over the net. The wrist is also an important component when making contact with the ball. It is important to flex the carpi radialis, carpi ulnaris, digitorum superficialis, and pollicis longus. These muscles are on the front of your forearm and they contract when you move your wrist forward to hit the ball. The arm should be swung all the way through to ensure no momentum or force is lost. Finally, the legs should be bent when landing to absorb shock and reduce the chance of injury.